So this all sounds great. I'm just thinking about the listener viewer who is sitting here thinking, I love this, but the fact is that as much as I've tried to meet halfway or even all the way, my spouse just refuses to participate in this part of our relationship. I want you to address that because I think that's a pretty big and real issue that we're seeing a lot.
At the risk of sounding, I'm going to promote something here.
I want you to promote.
Okay, I want to tell you that I did a TEDx talk. And I know that a lot of your viewers are familiar with TEDx talks on the topic of the sex-starved marriage. And it's been nearly 750,000 views at this point. Wow. And I've gotten so many emails. I love what I do, but this is the thing I love most. I've gotten so many emails from people who have said to me, I felt so alone and lonely, and hearing you made me realize I'm not alone, and I actually got my spouse to watch the talk, and for the first time in years, we're going to do something about this.
Wow.
So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
And then also along those same lines, the book, The Sex-Starved Marriage, is really written for both people to read together, and I explain each person's position so that they can have compassion for one another. And I really have a good way of working my way in there and talking to the person with lower desire who, as I said, controls the sexual relationship, and giving that person reasons and motivation to turn things around in the relationship. So there is hope. Do not give up.
Yeah. And I love that. The book, the TED Talk. But I'm just going to come back again. What about that couple who they're saying they're not willing? I've done all of that and they still are unresponsive to this area of our relationship. Is there anything? Is it basically there is no hope, or what would you say to that person?
You're talking to the psychotic optimist. I just don't think there really is such a thing. A lot of times, there are a number of things. Usually the person with higher desire has been pursuing and pursuing. And everyone probably knows that when you pursue someone, you're going to push the other person in the opposite direction. Mm-hmm. So one last-ditch effort that might be tried is to really, as the higher desire spouse, to stop pushing so much, to leave room in the universe for the other partner to take some initiative. That's one thing. The other thing is so often the person with lower desire says, I'm not going to be physical at all, because that's a complaint that I hear a lot. It's not only that we're not having sex, we're not holding hands, we're not kissing, we're not sitting next to each other on the couch, we're not cuddling in bed, we're not going to bed at the same time. And when I talk to low desire spouses about this, what they say is, I'm afraid that if I do anything physical, kiss him, give him a hug, goodbye in the morning, that it will inevitably lead to his or her wanting this to be turning into sex. So one of the agreements that they can make for starters is to be able to touch just affectionately and sensually without it leading to sex. And of course, the very last thing I can say is that it's absolutely essential that if on your own you haven't been able to get through to your spouse, there's professional help out there. Yeah. We work with people literally all over the world, and we give them suggestions of what they could do differently. Sometimes you can't see the forest for the tree because you're so close to the problem. Really discover something perhaps that you haven't tried, but you don't have to give up. There's always something you haven't tried.
I love that. Thank you for responding, because I was just pressing, because I know I've talked to them where they're just feeling so desperate and they feel like they've tried everything.
I know.
And it's almost like at this point, I just can't keep going forward. And it's a really tough place.
It is. And I guess the other thing is sometimes those folks, when they feel that they've tried everything, then they announce that they're getting a divorce. And I think there's a step before that, or several steps. And one, as I just told you, they should get some professional help. But secondly, they should tell their spouse, if after trying everything, and especially things that I've outlined in the book, because there are many more alternatives than what you and I are talking about, they need to tell their spouse, this is so important to me. I feel like I am so starving in this relationship, and I feel so devastated that if something doesn't change, I really am going to need to leave this relationship. before they actually give up.
Give up,
Because
yeah.
a lot of times that a lot people announce that they're getting a divorce when it's too late. And when their spouse then starts to change, which they do, they become more affectionate, more physical. The other spouse will say, that's too little, too late. So really be open and honest with your spouse about how devastating this has been for you and the steps you're going to take if something doesn't change, not as a threat, not as an ultimatum, but as the truth.
Yes. That's really